All right, everybody, welcome to this week's episode of It Happened to Me. I'd like to welcome to the show my friend Justin Reiley. Hey, Justin, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I know we've already kind of been chatting about some stuff. I'm excited to
Yes,
get
sir.
into the stories. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what happened to you?
Well, my name is Justin Reiley. From Victoria. My first experience, I was about 8. My parents' house, the house itself was not haunted because they actually built the house. I was born in 74. They built the house in like 72, I believe. Always had a thing about the dark. Never did like it. And I remember vividly, like it was yesterday. My room was at the end of the hallway.
Okay.
The hallway was just a long straight hallway, and it made a 90-degree turn to the right at the end of the hallway, kind of offset from my door. So looking out my door, you couldn't see into my parents' room. It was just kind of offset a little bit. And I always slept with the hallway light on. There was 2 lights. There was one in front of the middle bedroom and one in front of my parents' bedroom. So I would never go to bed without those hall lights on. Of course, my parents were up longer than I was. And there was one night I was kind of dozing off, and I remember opening my eyes, and right outside of my door was this black shadow. Very, very detailed outline. You could see like the little derby hat. Guy had a beard, big burly guy. Perfect profile outline. And as soon as I saw it, I kind of went, and when I did, it down the hallway towards my parents' room.
Okay, so it's not like it was trying to scare you or
No, like it was
trying to get your attention or anything like that. It didn't seem like it anyway.
No, it was just kind of hanging out right there.
Okay.
And I guess, I don't know if it even heard me or it did, and it was kind of like, oh crap, I gotta go. I don't know if it was one of those things, but when I did kind of do that little inhale, it hauled ass. Of course, I'm inquisitive. I got up. First thing I did was looked around the corner. There's nobody in mom and dad's room, so I stuck my head out and looked down the hallway towards the living room, and I could see the back of my dad's head in his recliner, and my mom was sitting on the couch.
So you knew it wasn't either one of them.
Yeah, we're the only 3 in the house. So, and of course, I told my parents about it, and they were just like, it was all in your head. And I knew it would. And never knew it. There had been several things I would see strange things like that. Because, that was back in the 80s. Kids played outside. You'd play outside until it was dark. Summertime, hell, we'd play all week, until they made us come in.
Yeah.
And we used the whole neighborhood as our playground.
Absolutely. You had to be home when the light came on.
Yeah, nah, usually not on Friday and Saturday nights. They're like, hey, I'll have fun. Because all of our parents were close, and there was like 4 of us that were about the same age that we all ran around together, and played. And I remember we were using the next door neighbor's house as home base. And we kind of played hide and go seek or something like that. I remember it being dark and standing on his front porch. And he had his porch light on for us. It didn't bother him a bit. He was an elderly man. Didn't bother him a bit that us kids were running around, and as long as we didn't disturb anybody. Well, I also remember this black shadow. I didn't have really a shape to it, just kind of came right at me. And it felt like a gust of wind. That neighborhood, the street was, it's a long, straight street up the hill, kind of made a big P. On one corner, there's a cement pillar on either side. About yay tall off the ground, maybe, 3-4 foot high. And we'd always play on them things. There's one on opposite corners from each other. Never knew what they were. We just played on them. The end of the road just kind of ended in brush. And of course, we played in it. And, kind of in that tween years and early teens, we'd always play in the brush out there. I remember finding this concrete slab with it was big rectangle slab with a long ways wall that divided it in half, made out of tile with pipes sticking out of it. Never had a clue what it was. Just always blew our mind at some of the things we found out there. Well, fast forward years later, my mom gave me this book, and it was titled Camp Kennedy. Well, that's where I was born and raised, in Kennedy. That whole area up there was sold to the government as a World War I troop training ground. And then years later, it became a POW camp. And the 2 cement pillars, that was the entranceway to it. What we found out in the brush was the old shower stalls that were out there. So I was going through the book. In fact, somewhere around here, I still have the book. It had a picture of the man that gave the land to the government. Lo and behold, big burly man, big beard, wearing a derby hat. So that's kind of when, in later years, I figured out he was attached to the land. And there was a story, in fact, when Sherry and I were dating.
Okay.
First
and
time
Sherry is your wife, the woman who puts up with you.
Yes, for the last almost 25 years now.
Congratulations, man.
We hadn't killed each other yet, so I'll leave it at that. Well, we, when first time she ever spent the night at the house, I told her, you can have my bedroom and I'll sleep in the spare bedroom. But I warn you, our house is kind of haunted. She didn't believe me. She's like, nah, whatever, Middle of the night, I hear a yell. So I get up and I run in there, and she said, how did you just do that? I went, how did I do what? She goes, you were just sitting on the end of the bed on my feet. How did you get out in the hallway without opening the door? And I went, wasn't me. I was next door. Oh, my radio station I always slept with the radio on. And it was remember the old boom boxes that had the little dial on the top, like it was just delivered and you had to roll it?
Yep, I remember those.
I would always go to sleep with one radio station, turn down real low just for noise. And I remember hearing the music change, and I was like, the heck is that? Turn the light on, it was on a different station. It went from like 106.7 to like 107.4. So I put it back. A few minutes later, I heard a different kind of music. I think it went from like country to metal. I'm like, oh, turn the light on, looked over, 99.5. I'm like, stop. I'm trying to go to bed. Leave me alone. And it quit. Mom and Dad's TV. Mom and Dad, once I got older, they'd leave me home by myself at night. They'd go to a dance or out to dinner or whatever,
Sure.
and just leave me at home with the dog.
Yeah.
the TV had a habit of turning off on its own. And it was, do you remember the big TVs, like the 32-inch TV and the big wooden box that,
The big old
took
console
like,
TVs.
yeah, like it took like 4 people to move one,
Yeah, absolutely. My
So they
grandparents
had
had one of those.
Yeah. So it would turn off on its own. And I never really thought much about it. It was kind of weird. But what always got me was my dad's dog. He would never sit in my dad's recliner unless somebody was in that chair. He'd go lay in the other recliner, he'd go lay on the couch. He would never sit in dad's recliner unless somebody was sitting in it. Didn't care who, just somebody.
Right.
There were several occasions where he would get up off the couch where I was at, walk up to the recliner and sit down and look at it, and he'd hop up on it. Well, his thing was he would get between you and the left arm, and he'd wiggle. And he'd wiggle himself down in between the arm of the chair and your leg. He'd get up there all by himself and wiggle. And I'm like,
yeah,
no, man, I got to go.
Yeah, it's time for me to vacate the area.
Yeah. So, eventually I got out of the house and I guess it kind of died down because, even taking Sherry and the boys back, I haven't really noticed anything. And then, if you want to go into more stories, I got a lot of them.
Yeah, man, we got as much time as you want. I try to keep them around 30 minutes, but sure, love to.
Okay. Well, I failed to mention earlier, in recent years, I've discovered that I'm a medium. And I'm still learning. It is a big learning process.
Before we go into the stories, let's just talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
Because I'm sure that people who are watching this channel, I don't know if they're deep into the knowledge of what a medium versus a psychic is or what. So is there a difference that you know of in your current level of knowledge between a medium? Is there a difference between a medium and a psychic?
Yes.
Okay, what's the difference?
Well, a medium is usually somebody that hears, sees, speaks to the not living.
Okay.
And it's sometimes it is a visual scene, sometimes it's not. I'll kind of explain that a little later on. It's kind of more of it sounds funny, but it's like a voice in your head.
Well, there are famous television mediums. I don't want to say their name for fear of getting struck down by copyright or something like that, but there are famous television mediums who are on popular paranormal shows who sometimes voice that exact phenomenon, right? They're like someone's screaming at me, I'm hearing this, but they're not saying I'm seeing someone. They're saying I'm being told this, I'm hearing this.
Now, granted, yes, sometimes they're clear as day. I've had it happen before where I thought it was an actual person standing there until they turned and walked through a wall. And I'm like, anybody else see that? Am I the only one that just saw that happen? And everybody's looking right in the same direction. They're like, see what? Never mind. I'm going to keep that to myself for now on.
So was there a specific thing that brought that out, that you were a medium? And was that a hard bit of knowledge to take? People never like to find out about, things about themselves. They think they have a good handle on who they are. So was that hard for you?
When I first, because it was actually another psychic medium, which maybe you can get her on your show. She's actually the one that told me that I was. And she's the one that's been coaching me in how to open it up and use it and make it stronger. And I always call it my curse because it can get really annoying. Yes, it is a gift. And when I first found out about it, I I was all excited about it, because I mean, I really always enjoyed watching like Ghost Hunters or, you know, those kind of shows on TV. I was always curious about what's out there.
Sure.
Is it real? Is it not? Yes, I've seen things, but is it because it was a figment of my imagination and I just kind of wanted to see those kind of things?
Or maybe you
And
just saw something, but that doesn't make you a medium, is what you're trying to say.
well, yeah, but there's a technical term for it. For the life of me, I cannot remember what it is, but I always call it matrixy, where you look at something and you can see something in there, like you're looking at a tree.
Right, but you see a human face or whatever.
Correct. Are you looking in
Yeah.
the clouds?
Right. And that is something that human beings want to do by default. They want
Yeah,
to
your brain
personify
will.
things, make faces, recognize patterns.
Yes, it's your brain tries to. I'm not going to really say comprehend, but it tries to fit it into something that it already understands. Like, oh, look, that cloud looks like a dog, but to somebody
Right.
else, it looked like a bird. It's just something that your brain does. So it kind of it always kind of made me wonder, did I really see that? Was it a dream? Was I in that half sleep, half awake stage to see those kind of things that my brain just told me that I saw that?
Right.
And it was actually, I learned about all this after a ghost hunt with a friend of mine. She's the one who brought it out and basically told me if I was going to continue to do this, then I need to know these things. And so she started helping me, and it gets annoying because they do know who you are, which sounds kind of funny, but they do know who you are, and they will find you. They will come to you, especially if they have something to say. And they have no sense of time.
And is it something that you can turn off completely to where you're not
Yes,
bothered by that, or no?
yes and no. I was taught to visualize like a door with, those out to lunch will return at signs, with one of those on it, and put whatever time I wake up on there. For the most part, it works, but every once in a while, you have the, for lack of a better term, asshole that doesn't care.
Well,
Whatever he's got to tell you is the most important thing in the world to him, and he's coming in regardless, and he's going to tell you that.
well,
And it's annoying.
I've heard some people say, not everybody's nice in life, so not everybody's nice in death either.
Exactly. One story. I had moved, not necessarily back home, but back to my home county a couple of years back. And a friend of mine owned a house with an attached apartment, so I stayed in the apartment. And there was, and to this day, I still laugh about it because it was funny to me. It was annoying, but it was hilarious. I was sound asleep in bed. And I got woke up to somebody tapping my hand. Like, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. No clue what's going on. I'm like, I wake up kind of panicked, like, what's going on? And there's this little girl standing there on the side of my bed looking at me, maybe 6 or 7 years old. She just kind of looks at me and goes, and then runs out the wall. I'm like,
Nice.
oh, why? It just,
Now that I'm awake, thanks.
yeah, now I'm awake, and I've got to go to work in like 2 hours. So
And I'm a little freaked out now. So the chance of me going back to sleep are pretty slim to none. Thanks.
yeah, it's just kind of strange. But it can get very annoying. It really can. It, depending on what you believe, it can be dangerous at times too. That's a whole nother subject to even get into.
Well, we have plenty of time. We have time for another story if you've got one you can tell us.
Oh yeah, well, I've got a bunch I could tell you. Well, let's stay in Garden City. Actually, several occurrences had happened at her house.
When you're saying her, who are you talking about?
She was well, I don't want to put no names out there, but she was a good friend of mine from, we've been like best friends since we were 12.
Perfect. So that's all. That's good enough. Just a friend of yours. Okay.
She lived across the street from her grandmother. The grandmother's house was built originally in the late 1800s.
Okay.
The lady who built it passed away in it. Another family bought it. In mid to late 50s, her grandmother and grandfather bought the house.
Okay.
Lived in it ever since. The original homeowner was her last name was Hyatt. There's a lot of her stuff still in the home.
Okay.
There's a few things I don't deal with in my life. I can't stand them. They're clowns. Those baby dolls that look real. Yep. And mannequins.
Just so you know, you and I have the same problem. Nope. Nope.
No.
That's a big no. Negatory, good buddy.
So I haven't been in her grandmother's house in, 30 years plus. So I go to say hello to her grandmother. And as soon as I walked in the door, it felt like you walking up behind me, grabbing my shoulders and pushing down on me. It was such a heavy weight. So as soon as I walked in the door, I was like, give me a minute. And we always made the joke that her grandmother's house sits on the block. Because it literally does. It takes up the entire block.
Okay.
And she owns the entire block. It's a very large home. So we walk in through the den, go into the kitchen. There's two ways to go upstairs. There was a staircase in the kitchen and a staircase in the original living room. They met together on the landing.
Okay.
And then they went up to the second story. So we go in. I sit down and talk with her grandmother for a while, and she goes, "You want to go upstairs?" Yes, I have not been in this house since I was a kid. So she goes up the stairs. Well, when you're coming up from the kitchen, you go up. You have to do a complete 180 on the landing and go up the other stairs. Still gets me to this day. I knew it was there. It was there when I was a kid. It's still there today. You get up the stairs, you make a right, and do you remember the old school, I guess you would call them busts, where it was just from the neck to the waist?
Yes.
Okay. They have one of those up there with the original homeowner's dress on it on the landing, and you don't see it until you make a turn. I almost went backwards down the stairs.
Yeah.
And that house, you can hear, if you just sit upstairs and be quiet, you can hear like somebody playing with the blinds, like running their fingers down the blinds. She had sent me pictures she had just mopped the kitchen floor, and there were little tiny footprints, barefoot footprints across that wet floor. Showed up clean as day. Going back to her house, that house was built in the 70s, 60s, 70s, I believe. I'm thinking 60s. So she moved into that house because she took care of her grandmother. So we were in there one day. We were just going to hang out in the kitchen, broad daylight. And she told me, now a closet is not big enough for her clothes collection. She has an entire room because she lived by herself.
I got you.
The entire spare bedroom was her closet.
Her closet. I got you.
And she would always tell me, and I was still new to all this at this point. She would always tell me to walk from the master bathroom across her bedroom, and you just kind of walked out of her door and just kind of angled off to the right into the back bedroom. She said, I'm in my own house by myself, doors locked. I won't walk out of my bathroom without a robe on. I just feel uncomfortable. So we had the friend of mine that is actually the psychic medium come in and bless the house, clean the house, sage, seal the property off, went around the property with salt and holy water and all the windows, all the doors. We sealed the house. Well, she was clearing the house first. And the laundry room, I didn't even like going in. I would rather go down the street to the laundromat than across the driveway to wash my clothes. I didn't like it. It was an uneasy feeling in there. So she was there, and my best friend and I were standing in the dining room. There's the sunroom, and then the laundry room is in the sunroom. So my other friend said, come here. And she's standing in the laundry room, and I'm like, I don't want to go in there. I get just a nasty, uneasy feeling in there. She goes, you're fine. Come here. And she kept saying she was getting a real sharp stabbing pain on the side of her head behind her ear. Like, okay, no clue what that means.
Yeah.
No clue. So I step into the laundry room, and she reaches up, and it's got like the sliding closet doors.
Okay.
She pulls it closed in front of me. And I'm like, don't do that. She goes, no, you're fine. I'm staying right here. This one's open. Close your eyes and tell me what you see. Okay. She goes, close your eyes, focus. Tune out everything. I was like, okay. So I did. And it was the strangest thing because I could see this little short man in a white starched button-down shirt, tan slacks, black shoes, white hair. He was short, but he was jumping up in my ear, telling me to get the F out. He wanted me out of that house. And when I said that, I reached over, I threw that door open. I'm like, I'm out. So I walked out of that laundry room. Well, when I did, my best friend was sitting there looking at me with her mouth wide open. She said, you literally just described the little man that used to live next door. And he passed away from a brain tumor on the left side of his head.
Nice.
But she said, I said, he wants to do bad things to you. Like, really bad, like tie you up in the basement kind of stuff, And I was like, it's just got to be my brain. Because I do like horror movies. I'm not going to lie. I was like, it's just got to be that. And my other friend told me, no, you're dead on. You're dead on. You see exactly what I'm seeing. You're hearing what I'm hearing. You're feeling what I'm feeling. So we got him out of the house, sealed the property, was not happy. Well, her ex-husband used to play poker with this little man. So she said, I'm going to ask him what kind, because she goes, I really didn't know him other than, when I was a little kid.
Right.
I never knew who he was. So she contacted her ex and asked him, and he goes, oh, no, that was the most perverted guy that I've ever met. He said, and I'm not talking like in a good way, like he probably drug a kid or two home, that kind of vibe to him. Yeah, like not a good person. And he said, and he did verify that, yes, he actually had a brain aneurysm on the left side of his head that he died from. So I'm like, well, okay then. So there was another night. She had gone to San Antonio, came back with this gorgeous little Dia de los Muertos doll.
Yeah.
In almost like a formal, like it was a paper mache type or doll, and she like had a formal dress on and like the Kentucky Derby hats.
Yeah.
Set it on her fireplace. One night, about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, I get this text. She said, "Hey, are you still up?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sitting in here watching TV." She goes, "Can you come in the house?" Okay. She goes, "Come in the house and just come straight to my bedroom." Okay, everything all right? And she goes, "Just come in here." Sure. So I get up, go across the driveway, go in the house, walk down the hallway. Her bedroom's pitch black. She had all the windows covered up. And I'm like, you all right? Of course, she scared the crap out of me because she's like, yeah. I'm like, I can't see you. Stop.
Yeah.
She goes, I'm sitting in the bed. She said, just come sit down. I said, okay. So I went and sat on the bed with her, and she said she had the house alarm. She had a keypad in her bedroom, one by the front door, one by the back door. She said, sit down on the bed with me, listen, and watch my keypad. Because her little keypad would the little light on it would blink every time it sensed motion. I'm like, okay. So we sat there and just listened, and I started hearing almost like, the material that they use to do like the formal dresses and stuff like that. You could almost hear that material like rubbing against itself.
Yeah.
Walking down the hallway. And I could see the light on the keypad blinking. I'm like, oh, hell no. So I got up and I flipped the light on in the bedroom, and I'm looking at the keypad, and it had motion detected in the hallway. Well, then it popped up again with motion detected in the living room. So we got up and we walked down the hallway to the living room. Well, she looked at that little statue, that little doll or whatever, and she said, she was on that side of the fireplace. Now she's on this side of the fireplace. So she went in the trash.
Yeah.
That kind of did away with that. There was one other time in that house where I did some ranch work for him, and I was working on a shredder in the driveway. I was welding on it. Of course, when you're welding, you're wearing gloves.
Right.
She had gone to town grocery shopping or whatever, and she come back. She went in the house, and all of her walls were kind of a eggshell color. So she comes back outside, and she's kind of pissed off. She said, look, I don't mind that you go in the house and use my bathroom or whatever, but wash your hands, please, and don't touch my walls. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? If I want to go to the bathroom, I live right there. I'm not going to go that far, but I can go right there. And I said, besides, I'm wearing gloves, and took my gloves off. I said, see, hands are clean. She said, go look in my hallway. When you stepped into her hallway, there was a closet door that was white, little chunk of wall, and then the spare bathroom door. Between the closet and the bathroom door, it looked like somebody had just dirty hands and like grabbed the wall as they turned to go into the bathroom. And then on the bathroom door, there were 3 fingerprints on the outside and a thumbprint on the inside.
Like somebody grabbed the door to open it or whatever.
Right. And then so we kind of walked on down the hallway. Well, it looked like somebody had just dragged their dirty hand down the hallway wall, went into her room. She had an actual one of those folding closet doors in her room. Looked like they had just run their hands down it, and then went into her bathroom and grabbed that door too. And I'm like, it wasn't me. Like, it wasn't me. Well, I kind of rubbed it, and I was like, well, that's like soot. It's not dirt. So we kind of walked through the house to try to figure out where. We finally found a candle. there was a candle sitting on her bar that she had up on top of the ice box. But it was almost like somebody put it there, took the top off, and grabbed the wicks and got their fingers dirty with it. And I was like, I guess somebody's just letting you know they're here.
Yeah.
So I said, it's not a problem. I'll clear the house. So I got my sage and everything and started clearing the house. And I went through it all. Well, when I came to the front of the house, I heard somebody laugh from the back of the house. I was the only guy in there, and it was a male voice. So I got some friends to come help me. That was a little beyond my comprehension, because not only did it laugh, it growled.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And generally, growling is a sign of demonic possession or something pretending to be a demonic.
Exactly. And that's what it wound up being. It just wound up pretending. It was trying to scare me out of the house, and it just didn't work. I'm trying to think of a short one.
No, man, that's good. We're at 36 minutes. I'd love to have you back on the show, though. What do you think?
Sure. I can definitely do it.
Awesome, man. Well, do you have any, I guess you're still learning to do what you do with your medium stuff. And my understanding is you have a good teacher. Do you think maybe you could talk to your teacher about coming on the show? We'd love to have them as well.
Oh, yeah, I can most definitely talk to her and ask her.
All right. Great, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Not a problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to stop the recording and we can hang out for a few more minutes.
Okay.
All right, bud.